Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Corporation for National and Community Service, Nicola Gorin, and Chief Executive Officer of the Points of Light Institute, Michelle Nunn.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night.
Thank you. Can we have one more round of applause for Glide? We want to welcome you to the National Conference on Volunteering and Service. It's now time to begin civic energy generation. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed the pre-show. You're still with us. And you're as ready as Michelle and I are to kick off this year's conference. The next few days promise to be inspiring and thought-provoking as we hear from you and from civic leaders around the country. We have brought together an amazing array of people who will share their thoughts, ideas, and talents with us. And we are so thrilled to be here in California. Yeah. This is a state that has set the leadership example of how volunteering and service can power communities and be part of the solution to statewide challenges. Governor Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver helped us pave the way for an amazing conference and put the force of California volunteers behind it. Yep. And with the leadership support of Secretary Karen Baker, and Janet Lampkin from Bank of America, and an amazing host committee of local leaders, we stand here at one of our largest national conferences ever. We have a conference program that will not only inspire all of us, but will inform the future of service in this nation.
Thank you, Nikki, and thank you so much for your terrific leadership at this time of great change and opportunity for the service movement. It is a tremendous privilege to partner with the Corporation for National and Community Service in convening this conference. You know, there has never been a more auspicious time for our service movement. The sellout crowd, and the constellation of change agents and leaders that are assembled here underscores the importance of this moment and this gathering. We have the most extraordinary conference ahead of us, and it has been made possible by the visionary leadership and investment of our corporate and nonprofit partners. These partners realized early on that this would be a pivotal year for service and for citizen action. The Target company stepped up early to invest as our title sponsor. Woo! Target. The Shin Yun Foundation joins us as the Civic Energy sponsor. And the Entertainment Industry Foundation, the Home Depot Foundation, and UPS raised their hands as presenting sponsors. So many companies and foundations have contributed to this moment, and we'll look forward to celebrating them, honoring them, and thanking them throughout the next few days. Their leadership really signifies the cross-sector imperative of our shared work. You know, we have a unique window of time as a service movement. We have the opportunity and the mandate to bring service to an unprecedented scale and to demonstrate its efficacy to help solve both our nation's and the world's problems. The 5,000 people in this room truly are the civic generation, and the power is in our hands to change the world. So let's get started.
We have the power to make this the best generation of mankind in the history of the world.
We have an opportunity to shine a bright light on service and the possibility of what service can do.
We need your service right now. I'm not going to tell you what your role should be. That's for you to discover. But I'm asking you to stand up and play your part. If you do, I promise you, your life will be richer. Our country will be stronger. And someday, years from now, you may remember it as the moment when your own story and the American story converged.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the board chair of the Corporation for National and Community Service, Alan Solomont.
Hello, everyone, and again, welcome. During the presidential campaign, to get people's blood flowing, we often started big meetings like this with the cheer we learned from the candidate. Some of you might even recognize it. So repeat after me. Fired up. Ready to go. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Again, fired up. Ready to go. It's been a while since I've been in a room like this with this level of enthusiasm and purpose. So I think it's okay to make the campaign cheer America's cheer, but with a different twist. So once again, repeat after me. Fired up. Fired up. Ready to serve. Ready to serve. Now that was great. This is an historic moment. Millions of Americans are fired up and ready to serve, and we have a lot of momentum at our backs as we kick off this record-breaking national conference. There's a growing national consensus, not just in the service community, but among policymakers, business leaders, educators, and philanthropists, that no one sector of society can solve our nation's problems alone. Whatever the solutions are, engaging citizens in service has got to play a big part. All across the country, I've observed a renewed sense of civic responsibility and seen ordinary citizens meeting societal needs through service and volunteerism. It is truly a grassroots movement in the most powerful sense of the term. This movement has been growing for some time, and clearly we've reached an inflection point that is catapulting us to a new level. We elected a president who had his own transformational experience as a community organizer. The First Lady chose service as the path of her career. President Obama and Michelle Obama have spoken clearly to the American people about their own service experiences, and they are leading not just with words, but by example. During the campaign, Barack Obama vowed to make service a cause of his presidency, and as president, he is fulfilling that commitment. Congress has responded by passing landmark legislation with large bipartisan majorities that will dramatically expand all service programs. It also invests in social innovation to generate new ideas about what works and what doesn't. As always, hard economic times have increased the ranks of the vulnerable while reducing the resources available to help them. But this recession has also prompted a compassion surge from citizens everywhere who wish to help their neighbors through service. I believe we will look back at this moment and this conference as a time when the civic culture of this nation changed as a result of unleashing the power of national and community service. Poll after poll shows a striking desire to reclaim a sense of civic responsibility, especially among the millennial generation, who are taking their place among the ranks of civic leaders. But this movement is not limited to young people, as the number of older adult volunteers will double in the coming decades. This is not the first time citizen service has changed the course of our history, or the first time a president has inspired us to serve. President Roosevelt called Americans to military service, and the greatest generation responded. President Kennedy called Americans to public service, and the baby boom generation responded. And today, President Obama is calling Americans to community service, and the millennial generation is leading the response of Americans of all ages who are inspired to be more active citizens. It is now my great honor to introduce a very special guest. Nancy Pelosi has been a wonderful friend to my wife Susan and me and to our daughter Becca. She is a great American leader who grew up in a family of great public servants. After raising her own family, Nancy Pelosi dedicated herself to the great cause of public service. She was elected to Congress and rose quickly through the ranks of leadership to become the first woman Speaker of the House in our history. Let me remind you of one inspiring moment that we witnessed the day Nancy Pelosi was elected Speaker. After her remarks, Speaker Pelosi summoned the children in the chamber who were present to witness their parents swearing in. From under the desks and out of the arms of their mothers and fathers, scores of children ascended the rostrum so the Speaker could pass around her gavel for them to hold. As we talk here about the next generation and their role in leading us, how fitting to have with us the Speaker of the House in her home city, who understands the importance of nurturing our children, but also of passing the gavel of leadership to their hands. Please join me in welcoming America's Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
Good afternoon. Welcome to San Francisco. Thank you, Alan Solomont. For Alan, service is not who he is. It is what he does and who he is. As chairman of the Corporation for National and Community Service, he is encouraging millions to join in strengthening America. Thank you for your leadership, Alan Solomont. And thank you, Neil Bush, for your work as the chairman of the Points of Light Institute, continuing the fine tradition of the Bush family in living a life of public service and volunteerism. Thank you, Governor Schwarzenegger, for being the first governor in the nation to create a cabinet position for service and volunteering. I congratulate Secretary Karen Baker for being the first person to hold such a position. Thank you for your leadership, Karen Baker. We are all honored to be joined here today by First Lady Michelle Obama. In his first joint address to the Congress, President Obama called for a renewed spirit of national service for this and future generations. No one has done more to answer the call than Michelle Obama herself. This year, Michelle has bagged lunches for hungry children. I've seen that myself. She's grown lettuce at the White House and donated to the local soup kitchen. She's read books at elementary schools, and today she helped build a playground for the children of San Francisco with our First Lady, Maria Shriver. That playground on the grounds of the Bret Hart Elementary School will be named in honor of Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez's words are appropriate today. He said, "We cannot seek achievement for ourselves and forget about progress and prosperity for our community. Our ambitions must be broad enough to include the aspirations and needs of others, for their sake and for our own. The ambitions of all of you are clearly broad enough to include the aspirations and needs of others. In these great times of great challenge, America needs more people like all of you, rolling up your sleeves and pitching in to turn challenges in your communities into opportunities to serve. I come here today to thank you, and I come here proud of what Congress has done in a bipartisan way to help provide those opportunities. For more than 4 years, California's own Congressman Chairman George Miller of the Education and Labor Committee, and New York's Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy, Chair of the Subcommittee on Families and Communities, worked together to launch what would become a new era of service. The legislation, later named for its Senate champion, Senator Edward Kennedy, the Serve America Act, and signed by President Obama, creates 175,000 new service opportunities, more than tripling the number of volunteers nationwide. And it rewards volunteers with real investments in their education. We are especially proud that the Kennedy Serve America Act expands the diversity of our nation's volunteer corps, encouraging Americans from middle school students to retirees to give to their communities. It was a priority for us in Congress to create a service corps to address key needs in low-income communities. Also, a clean energy corps to encourage energy efficiency and conservation, and the Veteran Service Corps to involve those who have proudly worn our nation's uniform, our veterans. It is appropriate that this bill is named for Senator Kennedy, as his entire life has been lived in the service of our country. That's a Kennedy family value, and that leadership continues today by our California's First Lady, Maria Shriver. We all know America may face unprecedented challenges, but Americans always rise to the occasion. David Karst is one of those Americans. He served as an AmeriCorps volunteer to provide compassionate care to people with HIV and AIDS. David thought he would serve for a little while. Instead, service changed the entire course of his life and the lives of others. After his work with AmeriCorps was complete, David built a health center to offer his community life-saving HIV test. The CDC has just funded this center for the next 5 years. Thank you, David. I particularly love the story of Thelma King, or Granny King, as the children call her. Thelma works with inner-city youth through Senior Corps. She speaks for children who literally cannot speak for themselves, those who have no linguistic ability. When asked how she communicates, she says, all kids understand the language of love. Millions of Americans have been inspired by President Obama's call for national service. In fact, some charitable organizations have reported they have twice the number of volunteers this year than they did last year. Americans always rise to the occasion. As has been said by Alan, during the Depression, Americans banded together to renew our forests, electrified our countryside, and build the infrastructure that stands so strong today. In the 1960s, we created VISTA and the Peace Corps, sending volunteers to the communities with the greatest needs here at home and around the world. Recently, volunteers continue to help rebuild New Orleans and after the hurricane, and California after the fires. We will be called upon again and again to rebuild America. You have answered that call. You have decided to make this your moment. All of you gathered here have been called to service to help our neighbors and our nation, and we're all very, very proud of you. Seeing the enthusiasm gathered here, the grassroots, the grass tops, the public, private, and nonprofit partnerships, I am confident that this will be the civic energy generation. Thank you all very much. Have a great convention. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Governor of the State of California, the Honorable Arnold Schwarzenegger.
California.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here in San Francisco, and it's wonderful to be here with so many volunteers. It's such a privilege to welcome all of you here to the great state of California and to the National Conference on Volunteering and of Service. And of course, I love hanging out with volunteers just simply because in my last election in 2006, I happened to get 90% of the votes from volunteers. So just want you to know that's why I'm very happy with all of you. But the other 10% just never forgave me for my last movie, Hercules in New York. So I understand that too. But anyway, as you can imagine, I am very busy right now in Sacramento with the budget, and there's a lot of work going on over there, but there's nothing that could stop me from being here with all of you today. Service and volunteerism are that important to me, are that important to my family, and to the great state of California. I'm here, of course, for another reason, and that is to pump you up. To pump you up. I'm here to pump up your spirits because I believe in you and the amazing work that all of you do. And I believe that we are on the verge of a breakthrough in service all across this country, maybe even a revolution. We are at a unique time in history, and it is time to think big, to think outside the box, and to create big action. I'm happy to say that service is being elevated by our champions in the White House, the President and the First Lady. And so I want to take this opportunity and say thank you very much to Mrs. Obama for joining us here today in California. The First Lady was out there today working very hard, building a playground with Maria, our First Lady, and about 500 other volunteers. And the Obamas continue to set an example for the nation to prove that no family is too busy to serve. So let's give the First Family a big hand for their great support for volunteerism. I want you to know that you also have a champion in the state capitol right here in California. My wife, Maria, has been a big advocate for service and for volunteerism, and it worked tirelessly for the last 5 years. And she, of course, comes from a family of service, and she has carried on this tradition, and she has so much energy, and all she thinks about is that. And so I just love her and her work that she's doing for volunteers, so let's give her a big hand for the work that she's doing. And I issued a call to service at my inauguration. And I have worked to make sure that we make service and volunteerism part of everything that we do. I'm so proud of the groundbreaking California Volunteers website that my wife has created. Our goal was to make it easier for Californians to find service opportunities and to connect. And there, through this website, 45,000 opportunities now available for people that want to help and that want to serve. And I'm also very proud of our cabinet-level position on service and on volunteering. We are the first state in the union to have a cabinet-level position for that. And let me tell you that Karen Baker is making it a model for the rest of the nation. She's doing an outstanding job. Let's give her a big hand. And I'm very proud of all Californians who are serving. whether it is the military or whether it is in a Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, or a new volunteer disaster corps, and the list goes on and on and on. And today we are also awarding California's first medals for service to individuals and businesses that are leading the way and are proving that service is for everybody. As a matter of fact, they're sitting right here in front, and we're talking here about Tom Zimmerman and Ophelia Pascal and David Levinson. So let's give them a big hand right there in front. Let's give them a big hand for their great service. Now, volunteerism is a powerful force in our great state, and it is gaining strength all across the nation. There's a spirit, an energy around service like never before. We have the chance now to bring service to every home, to have a discussion at every dinner table, and to make a commitment by every individual. We have the chance to make it a part of who we are as Americans. Now, people will write about this time, history books will write about this time, about the first decade in the new millennium, when we were hit with the catastrophic economic downturn, the biggest recession since the Great Depression. What do we want them to say is the question. We want them to say that we united in service, that volunteers came together and mobilized to live the words of John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. I want the history books to say that America stepped up and took action. I want them to say that every American stepped up and took action. Hasn't that been the story of this great nation through every one of its chapters? I mean, the power and the spirit of volunteers and the power and the spirit of ordinary men and women coming together and serving has pulled our country through its darkest days. Fantastic nonprofits such as Volunteers of America have been doing this for more than 100 years. During the Great Depression, they mobilized volunteers to help the unemployed. And then during World War I and World War II, they provided food, housing, and childcare to help more than 2 million people across this great nation. We need them now. We need them now more than ever. We need the people to serve one another. I mean, think about the kind of situation that we're in. 1/3 of the world's wealth has vanished. Capital has evaporated. Governments must scale back. Governments don't have any more the money to provide all of those programs that they used to. As a matter of fact, in California, we have lost 27% of our revenues just this last year alone. But the needs for service do not go away. Children still need to learn, and streets still need to be safe. That's why we need every individual to lead a crusade, a tiny revolution to make a difference. Yes, millions of people are already helping, but millions more can join us. And I know all of you here today are just the people to mobilize them. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Good. Because you have the unique, innovative programs to match those in need with those who serve. And there are critical needs everywhere in this country. We need more doctors and nurses. We need more retired teachers and athletes. We need anyone with a heart to help and with the will to serve, because we need volunteers to fill that void. Volunteers are doing that right now through the Senior Corps, which is aiding American seniors in need. Volunteers right now are helping the unemployed find work at the one-stop centers all over the state of California. And volunteers right now are helping the homeless in Los Angeles, where a program called Chrysalis has changed more than 30,000 people's lives. That's exactly the kind of spirit and the kind of service that we need right now in this economic crisis. And when my time in office ends, I want to hand over a huge volunteer force that is ready and that is committed. Now, President Obama is calling this the summer of service. I think that's wonderful, and let's build on that. Let's take that spirit and carry it through this year and deep into the future. This is the time to act. This is the moment. We need our volunteers. We need them to step up We step up and fill that void. And you as leaders will blaze the path for them. And this is your moment too. Now, as you go forward, I want you to think about one word, and that is ask. The word ask. Because so many people are willing to serve, but they've never been asked. I remember the time when I first was asked. It was in the 70s when the University of Wisconsin called me and asked me to come up there and to help them with a research program to see what effect weight training will have on Special Olympians and people that are intellectually challenged. And I went up there and took on that challenge. And let me tell you, it was the most satisfying feeling I've ever had. And then right after that, again, I was asked to serve, but this time by my mother-in-law and by my father-in-law. I was a successful bodybuilder. I was a successful actor, and I made lots of money. But my father-in-law, Maria's father, Sergeant Shriver, who started the Peace Corps, and legal aid to the poor, and the Job Corps, and all kinds of programs. He said to me, he says, "You have been very successful in so many things, Arnold. Why don't you try to be successful also in service?" Well, the next thing I know is that Maria's mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, who started the Special Olympics, she put me to work, and she made me the coach, the national coach, the powerlifting coach of the Special Olympians. The next thing I knew, I was the world coach for Special Olympians, and I was traveling around from country to country as the torchbearer and as the special ambassador to Special Olympics. And of course, one thing led to the next, and now I'm a full-time volunteer as governor of the great state of California. And I'm not taking any money. I'm not getting paid for that job. And I tell you, it's such a great pleasure to serve 38 million people in this state, even though it is the most challenging thing I've ever done, but it is also the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And it all started because I was asked. Now I ask each and every one of you to spread the ask. I'm asking you to ask others to serve, and together we will champion volunteerism. We will take service to a whole new level in our state and across this great nation. We can do this, we will do this, and we will do this together. So thank you very much. Thank you. And now, thank you very much. And now, I'm going to introduce to you someone that is full of energy. She is a fantastic California volunteer who is a role model at the Cesar Chavez's Educational Center in Oakland. And I'm talking now about Laura Kaneko. And Laura is a bilingual group leader, and she's an expert in after-school programs, and she's helping AmeriCorps, and she's teaching literacy and empowerment. She is a fantastic volunteer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Laura Kaneko. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am thrilled to be here today to introduce the First Lady of the United States. Her strength and leadership are an inspiration to me in my life and my work as an AmeriCorps volunteer. The events that have led me to work with AmeriCorps began with my family, whose struggles remain central to my involvement with youth today. My grandparents were the children of immigrants from Japan and Mexico. Growing up, they faced harsh punishment when caught speaking their first language at school. Throughout their lives, they continued to deal with discrimination, including being interned, being forced to leave California, and changing their names to avoid harassment in the workplace. As a result, my grandparents believed that doing the best by their children meant teaching them to speak only English. I, therefore, did not grow up speaking the languages of my family. Through studying my family's history and developing a greater understanding of my place in it, I have learned to speak Spanish, and I strive to empower other youth of color, especially those from multilingual backgrounds. I believe everyone should feel pride in their communities and feel confidence in their voice and ability to make a difference in this country. For the past year, I have served through Girls Inc. of Alameda County as a bilingual group leader with Girls Start, an after-school program based in literacy for girls in kindergarten through 3rd grade. I worked with a class of 14 girls in the 1st and 2nd grade, building Spanish and English language literacy, while also encouraging confidence, self-esteem, and conflict resolution. Being a full-time AmeriCorps member also allowed me to do one-on-one literacy intervention during the day, where I witnessed incredible gains in the reading and writing skills of my students. Through my work, I have been able to develop strong personal relationships with my students, their families, and the school community. This has been the most rewarding part of my experience. I believe that it is everyone's responsibility to enhance and strengthen their communities and to ensure that the nation's youth have the tools they need to succeed. The First Lady is an incredible role model for me as a strong woman of color who has worked so hard building communities of color from the ground up. Her work with Public Allies in Chicago allowed her to facilitate connections between young people like me and over 30 nonprofit organizations in the city. As a member of the board of her daughter's Chicago school, she fought to represent students of color and maintain that representation in the school. In her role as First Lady, she emphasizes and supports volunteerism and community building, which brings us here today. Knowing that there is someone in the White House who believes in the work that I do gives me immense hope for the future of this nation. At Girls Inc., it is our goal to inspire all girls to be strong, smart, and bold. It is my great honor to introduce to you a woman who is each of these and more, First Lady Michelle Obama.
Thank you. Thank you. I am honored to be here. And I'd really be happy to use these teleprompters if they were higher. But they're very low, so I'm going to read from my notes. I am just honored to be here today, and I want to thank you for having me. I really feel like I am with my people. Good thing. And thank you, Laura, for that wonderful introduction and for your outstanding work that you're doing to teach and mentor and inspire our young people. Let's give Laura a round of applause. I'd also like to thank our great governor of the state, Governor Schwarzenegger, as well as Speaker Pelosi for their outstanding leadership on this issue. And I have to thank my dear friend, California's First Lady, Maria Shriver. Maria is an example of how service can really transform lives, and she and I had a terrific time today out there at the Bret Harte School building a play lot. I think I was better with the tools, but she did a good job. Maria, you were an amazing woman. And I'd also like to recognize Karen Baker, California's Secretary of Service and Volunteering in the California Volunteer Office, for her efforts to promote service in this state. Round of applause for Karen. And I'd have to thank Michelle Nunn and Neil Bush from the Points of Light and Hands-On Network for co-sponsoring this conference and doing everything to make this such a wonderful event. And a warm thank you to my dear friend Alan Solomon, who's the chairman of the Corporation for National Service, and to the many members of the board of directors, many of whom are here, and the CEO, Nikki Gorin, and the terrific staff. With just 600 employees, the corporation operates with just 600 employees. This agency supports thousands of groups that engage millions of volunteers who change the lives of countless people every day. And we're so proud of their outstanding work, and we have to give them a round of applause as well. And finally, the last thank you goes to every single one of you here. That's a lot of you all here, too. That's a good thing. You all aren't just service providers. You're service leaders. You're the pioneers. You're the movers and the shakers. And you've done everything in your power to make giving back cool again, and that's a good thing. You have helped to make service once again a nationwide movement. And it's been said that our true calling in life is where our heart's greatest gladness meets the world's deepest need. And all of you here today have found that place. And I want to thank you for everything that you give and everything that you do. You are an inspiration to me and to all the folks in this nation who were looking on today's conference. You know that what you do every day isn't easy. Even in good times, it's not easy. And in times like these, when we're facing challenges unlike any in our lifetime, and you all know this better than anyone, I know it can feel close to impossible. When our economy falters, you're the ones who have to deal with the fallout. More folks needing those food pantries more than ever. More families needing help to stay in their homes and to pay their bills. Cities and states cutting services and leaving so many people with nowhere to turn. And just as more people desperately need your help, you've got fewer resources at your disposal. So you're making do with less staff and working longer hours and stretching every dollar even further. So you know better than anyone at this time how badly we need change right now. And I know better than anyone here just how hard our president is working to make that change. We have a president who wants to help us break out of those old habits that got us into this mess and build a new foundation for our economy, making investments in education, healthcare, clean energy that will create jobs and preserve our planet and give our kids every opportunity to fulfill their dreams. And we're beginning to see some progress. We're starting to see some glimmers of hope, a little light at the end of the tunnel. But at the end of the day, there's only so much that government can do. Washington cannot do everything. Government can't be everything to everybody. It can't be every place at once. That's why we need active and engaged citizens like all of you to step up and do their part during these times. You see, our government might be able to rebuild some schools, but it's people that we need to serve as the mentors and tutors in those schools. It's people that we need to serve on the PTA and to chaperone kids on those field trips. Government can modernize our healthcare system, but it's people who we need to volunteer to help care for the sick and help people lead healthier lives. Our government can invest in clean energy, but it's people that we need to use that energy more efficiently to keep our public spaces clean and train for the green jobs of the future. This, more than anything, is the key point that I want to make today, and that is this new Obama administration doesn't view service as something separate from our national priorities or just something in addition to our national priorities. We have an administration that understands that service is the key to achieving our national priorities. This administration believes that the only way to build that new foundation for our economy is to establish a new role for service in this country. Far too long, we viewed service in our communities as largely separate from our policies in government. There's a sense that service is helpful, but not necessarily essential. That is something that folks should do maybe on occasion, particularly around the holidays. Maybe you do something, you do it to fulfill a requirement, or maybe just to fulfill yourself. But we come to believe that the real work of moving this nation forward somehow is done elsewhere, in committee rooms, in boardrooms, in marble hallways, and in West Wing offices. We've come to believe that service is just something that's a little extra, the icing on the cake, but not actually part of the cake itself. And I've seen this way of thinking play out in my own life. As you know, I started my career in a big fancy law firm, working for big companies, making big money. And when I decided to leave all of that for public service, well, people thought I had lost my mind. My mother worried that I had taken her advice to follow my heart just a little too far. And my friends worried that I was throwing away a lucrative paycheck and a prestigious career all in one fell swoop. And my husband experienced the same thing when he decided after college that he wanted to be a community organizer working in struggling neighborhoods in Chicago. There was some... And while all of you here understand the power of that vision, there were many who tried to convince him to go straight to law school instead. You've heard that. Go law school. His friends all gave him a nice pat on the back before they went off to mail their admissions office applications to graduate school. And while everybody thought that our hearts were in the right place, a lot of people wondered whether our heads were on straight. And many of you probably heard these same voices in your own lives, right? The voices that tell you, well, that's awfully nice that you want to do good, but when are you going to get a real job? Or maybe you've heard, if you don't get paid a lot of money for what you do, then maybe what you do isn't that valuable. Or maybe you've heard, if you really want to make a difference and change the world, you need to do something with more prestige, something more powerful, more important. But what these folks don't understand is that the story of progress in this nation has always been the story of people who chose in times of trial and struggle to serve it. The founders who set forth the ideals that have animated our democracy for more than 2 centuries. The soldiers who fought and died for those ideals. The abolitionists and suffragists and people who marched and stood up and sat in to ensure the ideals of this nation would endure. The ordinary folks who've reached out to the least among us, providing a measure of dignity to people who have little else. What they've done for this country isn't extra. It's not something on the side. It's not just a little icing. It's what ensured our existence as a nation. It's ensured the basic rights of our citizens. It's ensured the well-being of our children. Our history is a long testament to the fundamental truth that real change, as we've heard from someone else doesn't come from the top down from Washington, but it comes from where? The bottom up, from citizens working and mobilizing and serving the nation that they love. That's how real change happens. And today, at this defining moment, this administration doesn't just see service as something that transforms just individual lives or even just individual communities. This is an administration who knows that service has the power to transform this nation. It truly does. So the question becomes, now how do we mobilize that force? How do we mobilize that energy? How do we connect people with opportunities? How do we connect needs with deeds? And we know that many folks are eager to give back. We've seen it. They're eager to be a part of this nation's recovery and renewal. You've seen it in the work that you do. People want to get involved. As hard examples, applications to AmeriCorps have quadrupled. In the Peace Corps, last year there were 3 applications for every available position. 35,000 young people applied for just 4,000 slots in Teach for America. And so many members of the baby boom generation are reaching retirement age, and they are ready and eager to find ways to keep contributing. People across this country are ready to answer the call to serve. We just need to issue that call and provide them with these opportunities that are meaningful. That's why the President has urged people to serve. Particularly on Martin Luther King Day, he made the call, and as a result, we saw the largest turnout in history on that day. That's why this administration is creating a community solutions fund to nurture the best, most innovative nonprofits out there, to support the next generation of Jeff Canadas and Wendy Copps and Dorothy Stonemans, and to replicate efforts like theirs all across America. That's why the President signed historic national service legislation, the Edward M. Kennedy Service America Act, expanding Senior Corps, AmeriCorps, Learn and Serve, and other initiatives to usher in a new era of service. That's why this President called for funding for 13,000 additional AmeriCorps members in the Recovery Act and requested a 29% budget increase for the Corporation for National Community Service for next year. This is the first step to increasing AmeriCorps to 250,000 volunteers. President Obama has done all this because he knows this investment will have returns many times over in the goodwill it will do for our communities. And that's why today we are proud to officially launch United We Serve. It's a nationwide effort. And we're calling on all Americans to make service not just something they do in their spare time, but a part of their daily lives. And when we say all, we really mean all. The young, the old, everyone from every background, all across this country. We're asking individuals, corporations, community organizations, foundations, government to be a part of this effort and work together, just like all of you are doing here at this conference and in the work that you do. United We Serve will be led by the Corporation for National and Community Service, and it's going to focus on 4 core parts of the recovery agenda: healthcare, energy independence, education, and community and economic renewal. Everything from organizing carpools and bike-to-work programs to reading to children and registering folks for library cards, or organizing community health drives and working with senior centers to promote exercise, to collecting and delivering food for families in need. You name it, it's a part of this call. The idea here is simple. We want to make it as easy as possible for folks to start serving. and do everything we can to make sure that they stay involved. So over the past few months, we've been reaching out to hundreds of nonprofit and community groups all across this country. Some of you have answered that call already, and we've asked them to start posting volunteer opportunities at serve.gov. We've also reached out to ordinary folks involved in service projects in their own communities and asking them to take those projects and list them on serve.gov as well. And we've asked folks to step up and become service leaders themselves, to identify unmet needs in their own communities. You don't need an organizing effort. You don't need to be a local elected official to see what's needed right on the ground, to figure out ways that they can address those issues and post those ideas on serve.gov so that others can join them. It's like the comedian Lily Tomlin once said. She said, "I always wondered why somebody didn't do something about that. And then I realized I was somebody." And that's really exactly the point. This call, through it, we want to make sure that everybody realizes that when it comes to serving their communities, they are the somebodies that they're looking for. You don't have to go so far. And serve.gov is also a tool that will offer people everything they need to get their projects started. It provides tools to help them set outcome-oriented goals. You all know about that. Yeah, I went through it. And to track the impact that they're having. Got to have that impact, right? And it allows them to connect with others in their area who want to organize around the same issue and to share stories and best practices. And today, I and several members of the President's Cabinet, we fanned out across this country participating in service projects ourselves. And we're asking people to go to serve.gov to search for projects in their area and sign up and pitch in. Even if you only have a few hours, you all know it doesn't take much. You don't have to be the overachiever on this, right? A few hours a day, a few hours a week can really make a difference. You don't need any special skills or talents or experience. You just need to show up and do your part. And the first phase of United We Serve is going to run from the summer through September 11th, which will be the National Day of Service and Remembrance. And while that day will be the culmination of this effort, it's by no means the conclusion. It's just the opposite, actually. On that day, we're going to honor those whose lives were lost 8 years ago, and in their memory, we'll renew our commitment to keep serving and to make service a habit of citizenship. So in a way, this summer is really just a preview of what's to come. The first step in our work to create a new era of civic engagement all across this nation. And already we're seeing people from all different sectors answering the call to carry this forward. And today I'm also pleased to announce one outstanding example of that. An initiative created by the Entertainment Industry Foundation, an organization that harnesses the power of Hollywood to raise awareness of and money for pressing social causes. This foundation has enlisted the 4 major networks, ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC, to take part in a week-long television event in support of national service. It's going to be a great thing This is really exciting. During the week of October 19th, these and other networks are going to include service themes and plots in our favorite TV programs, showing the celebrities that we love getting involved to serve their community. Isn't that cool? The idea is to emphasize for viewers across the country that service is part of who we are as Americans, and to highlight the power of service to make a difference in people's lives. And we need to give the foundation a round of applause for this effort. It's going to make a big deal. Ultimately, efforts like these and like United We Serve won't just help us build that new foundation for our economy. These efforts won't just make a difference in our communities and in the lives of the people we serve, they will also make a difference in the lives of those who perform that service. And this, you know, they'll give people a chance to experience the pride that comes with giving back and the inspiration that comes from being a part of something bigger than themselves. Like Kate Amana, who worked at the Red Cross in New York, helping families affected by 9/11. She had that experience. She said that her service, and this is her quote, taught me that each day is a new beginning, and with each new beginning is a chance to make this world a safer and happier place. And then there's Jason Best, an AmeriCorps volunteer in Denver, who also had the experience. He wrote a poem about serving that I'd like to read a bit from. He said, "I've taught beautiful, forgotten children how to read. I've loved those who weren't cared for and watched people who were considered broken perform miracles. I carried those who could not walk, and they taught me how to stand." You all know exactly what these folks are talking about, right? And that's why we're here today. That's why you do what you do every single day. And I hope that during your 3 days at this conference, that you actually have a little fun. Surprising. But take this time to recharge your batteries and to get re-inspired. Look around you. There are thousands of people here who share the same belief system as you. Make some time to meet some new folks, make some new friends, because we're going to need all the energy that you have to get this job done. We all know that our challenges are great and that we have a long way to go and a hard road ahead of us. But standing here today, looking over this room and just seeing all of you and feeling your energy, people who love this country and have devoted your lives to helping people share in this promise, I feel nothing but hope for the future. Thank you so much, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Michelle Nunn.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be.
Wow. What an extraordinary privilege to have the First Lady here with us. She is truly one of our own. We are truly blessed to have someone who comes from the service world and clearly understands the transformational power of service, the power of service to actually shape our national priorities. The First Lady's inspirational message, her call to the nation, and challenge to our field underlines the profound significance of this moment. So please join me again in celebrating and appreciating an amazing servant leader, Michelle Obama. So it's my great and very fun honor to introduce, with special thanks to the Entertainment Industry Foundation, a man who has taken the stage in thousands of arenas and stadiums around the world. He is a rock star. He is a huge rock star who also happens to understand at a very deep level the importance of community change. In between selling 100 million records and playing live to 32 million fans, he stayed rooted in his home state of New Jersey. Thought there might be a few New Jersey fans out there. And he's dedicated himself to making a difference. As owner of the Philadelphia Soul of the Arena Football League, he has used this soul force to make a difference time and time again. He's contributed millions of dollars with a focus on issues of homelessness and children in need. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming an artist of great soul and a true champion of service, Mr. Jon Bon Jovi.
Thank you. I want to thank the Entertainment Industry Foundation for inviting me to join you here today to launch this new initiative designed to make service a national priority. I also want to thank our First Lady, Mrs. Michelle Obama, for her commitment to volunteerism and her determined leadership by example in making community and national service an American priority. Thanks to the Governor of California, and of course, the First Lady of California, my friend Maria Shriver, for being here today. It's Maria Shriver's family who have such a long service and tradition of activism that's been an inspiration to the generations. And I want to give my greatest and loudest thanks to all of you for attending this National Conference on Volunteerism. As we launch the United We Serve program, now, just by nature of this convention, if I'm up here speaking to you, I know I'm preaching to the converted. You've either embraced as a career path or as a charitable endeavor the needs, the challenges, and the satisfaction that volunteering can bring to any number of topics that we face today. Many different roads have brought us to this destination. Each of us has his or her own unique story to tell. My becoming this involved in philanthropy took shape as the co-owner of an arena football team called the Philadelphia Soul. It might seem like an odd choice to some, but not to me. You see, well, before I bore you with the details of how I bought the franchise, I have to tell you that why I did it was because I thought that sport was a unique way to make a difference in our community. You see, from our inception, I didn't care if you liked Bon Jovi. I didn't care if you liked football. I believe that everybody thinks that they've got soul, hence the name. And while we were determined to win on the field, it was winning off the field that was just as important to me. We were looking for men of character, not characters. This was going to be not only a safe and affordable place for a family to come and root for the home team, but also a place where sponsors would be proud to spend their dollars. So before we played it down, before we sold a ticket, I went to sponsors, both big and small, and I explained to them that I intended to make a difference in sports ownership and in our community. And in our first couple of years, whether it was a foster home who needed a playground, a hospice who needed a check, or if it was a local covenant house who needed some beds, if the soul could be there, we were. By the spring of 2005, our focus became clearer. We became involved in the issue of affordable housing. And in our desire to break the chains of poverty in and around the area, the Philadelphia Soul Foundation was born. Initially, we partnered with organizations like Habitat for Humanity and Help USA. Yeah, they're both great organizations, thank you. But it was the mentoring of Sister Mary Scullion in Project Home that we are most grateful. It was Sister Mary that taught me the importance of job training and service providing. These elements were going to be key to the success in and around each of our builds. That something seemingly as basic as computer skills are in fact the difference between the quality and the quantity of food that you provide for your family. Now, it's been 4.5 years since we've begun our work, and thus far we've helped to fund 151 units of affordable housing. Very proud of that. We're just getting started, not just in Philadelphia, but also in places as diverse as Los Angeles, Denver, Detroit, Brooklyn, and, of course, in my home state of New Jersey. Well, I didn't come here today to talk about me. In fact, I came here to talk about the power of we. It's a term that I use often and underlined because the power of we. We are all aware of these trying economic times. Money's tight everywhere, and yet the homeless are still homeless. The hungry are still hungry. But there's hope for the hopeless. Because volunteerism is on the rise in America. Maybe it's due to the economy, but maybe it's because we're reminded that we're all in this together. But whether it's the President's signing of the Service Act of America in the name of Maria's uncle, Edward Kennedy, or the nearly 5,000 of us here today, each of us believes that we can do it. But as President Obama said, we can't do it alone. Government needs to work in concert with nonprofits, corporations, and individuals to make what I believe can be a noticeable difference in the place that we live. Now, the cynical say we can't fix everything, to which I respond, but if each of the hopeful can fix just one thing, imagine. Today shines a spotlight on this starting point. It's day one of a new season. An era built on the foundation of initiatives like AmeriCorps and City Year. Today we build on that foundation with United We Serve, but we're going to need to sustain that energy captured today throughout the summer's initiative. Maybe it's going to be tax credits. Maybe it's going to be educational credits. Maybe it's just going to be a roundtable discussion with the wiser and the elder. Remember, Mrs. Obama not only planted those seeds in the White House garden, but she, in fact, nurtures it. So after the photo op, you got to remember, America, roll up your sleeves, because it's time to get our hands dirty. This journey starts here, and it starts now with the first step. President Obama said, yes, we can. I'm here to say, yes, we will. And someday when we look back, we're going to say, yes, we did. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for inspiring me and countless others. Thank you for showing the country and the world that tomorrow starts now. We're going to be the ones that made volunteerism hip. Together, and with the power of we can start a revolution, one soul at a time. Thank you.
All right.
for Target and the Target Foundation, Leisha Ward.
From our First Lady Michelle Obama to all the amazing speakers who followed. What an incredible group of leaders we have here today. The story I'm going to tell my grandma is that Jon Bon Jovi opened for me. Seriously, Target is delighted to support the White House in its United We Serve initiative and be part of this incredible new era of service in America. In this venue, we've assembled some of the most amazing volunteer and service leaders from across the globe. It's truly an extraordinary coalition of great minds. So I encourage all of you to learn, share, and inspire each other over the next 3 days, and take those learnings back to your communities. I'd like to thank our host, Nikki Gorin, Acting CEO at the Corporation for National and Community Service, and my fellow board members from CNCS, as well as Michelle Nunn, CEO of Points of Light Institute and co-founder of Hands On Network, for their leadership in convening us today. I'm grateful to work with such an extraordinary team at Target, including those who are here today. Dana Nelson, Reba Dominski, Bernard Boudreau, Cheryl Thompson, and Mallory Wilcox. Thank you for your year-round commitment to community. I'm delighted to have Tina Shields, Senior Vice President of Target Stores, and other local Target leaders here today as well. They're the wonderful folks down here in the red and khaki and the heart of volunteerism at Target. Hey, guys. I'd also like to thank all of you for joining us from cities large and small, representing all sectors, from veterans of the movement to those new to the cause. Thank you all for your energy, passion, and enthusiasm, and for staying engaged. As leaders in the service movement, we have a great responsibility to take a stand, to lead by example, and to sustain the momentum in good times and in bad. But like anything worth doing, it isn't easy. It takes courage to take a stand. It takes energy and commitment to lead by example, to do the work that others are not willing or able to do. It takes passion and perseverance to sustain it, because this great endeavor is a marathon, not a sprint. Although we've achieved much, we need to support and nurture each other, because we still have a long way to go. The signing of the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act has defined the service movement that's sweeping across our great country. You are the leaders of this movement, the catalysts for change, the organizers who inspire others to make a measurable impact in your communities, neighborhoods, and schools. At Target, we're proud to join you in support of this movement, not only in words, but also in deeds. Our reputation is built on service. Service to our guests, service to our team, and service to our community. Since 1946, we've given 5% of our income and millions of volunteer hours to the communities we serve. Thank you. Today, that equals more than $3 million every week to support education, the arts, social services, and volunteerism. Our volunteers help feed the hungry, quickly respond to disasters, and support education by reading to children, donating books, and renovating libraries in elementary schools nationwide, letting all kids know that reading is important, education is important, and that they are important. Whether you're a student, teacher, or parent, whether you represent business, the nonprofit sector, government, the faith-based community, or serve in the military, whatever badge of honor or courage you wear, we are one nation, united in service. The next chapter in this great American story is unwritten. It's a blank page waiting to be filled by the leaders in this room and by the millions of caring citizens across our country who want something better for themselves, for their children, and for future generations. Now more than ever, it's time to sustain the movement, to innovate, and to continue to serve. Our next guests are service icons. Alan Casey, the innovative co-founder of City Year, the co-convener of Service Nation, and the CEO of Be the Change. He's joined by one of the most recognized faces in public service. She's a mother, wife, daughter, sister, journalist, public servant, and my friend, Maria Shriver. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alan Casey and the First Lady of California, Maria Shriver.
Thank you. That was good.
Come out, girlfriend. Oh, this sinks down.
Thank you, Laisha.
Yeah, Laisha, she's great.
She is
Target's
terrific.
Great.
Let's hear it for Target and Laisha Ward.
Hi.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Alan.
This is fun. This is great. I feel like the roles are reversed. I'm asking the questions and listening to your wonderful experience. It's an honor to be sitting here with you. Your family has a great tradition of service, and you have been a tremendous service leader and strategist in this 21st century service movement. People often look to California as the trendsetter. And 5 years ago, you took on service, and now the whole country's following your lead. Look at this gathering that you brought here to California.
This is great. I'm so thrilled that this is the biggest conference on service ever. 4,500 people here. Give it up for yourselves. This is extraordinary. Really.
One of the things that you've done so well is communicated the message of service. So before we get started, we're going to unveil for the first time, anybody seeing it, a new PSA that California under Maria's leadership has developed. So if we could play the PSA, please.
For years, there was this one piece missing. And working as a volunteer, that was the piece of the puzzle that was missing.
It becomes a part of you. Something would be missing in my life if I didn't volunteer.
It makes you feel better than anything else that you could possibly be doing.
Being a human being is about helping other people.
This is what life is all about.
When I'm doing it, I lose sight of time. I get more back than I actually give.
You just feel so fantastic.
Have to get out and volunteer.
You got to do it now. When can we start?
Get started now. Anybody can volunteer.
It's the power of one person.
It just feels good.
Find out how volunteering can change your life.
You won't believe how good it makes you feel. Visit CaliforniaVolunteers.org and find the perfect way to lend a hand.
Join California Volunteers today. How about you?
Are you ready? Feel good. Do good. Volunteer.
That is just great. That's the latest example of you getting the service message out. I think all of us here feel like we're in a unique moment. Maria, from your experience, how do we seize this moment, and how do we get the service movement to be on a par with, say, the environmental movement, where service is a lifestyle choice that people choose to do every day of the year?
Well, I think everybody here is doing that already. So I think my parents certainly started that message in our home when we were very young. And we were not, Arnold talked a lot about being asked. We were told. And everybody who came into our house was told. He nicely put it that he was asked. But you got a very clear message that if you didn't do it, you weren't coming back. And I think parents, I think that can really begin in all of our homes. I think parents can begin by modeling that and expecting their children at a very young age to be of service, whether it's cleaning up a beach, whether it's, playing with, in an Alzheimer's home, playing the piano, whatever it is, encouraging children at a very young age, and then it becomes part of their culture. I think businesses can really step forward and encourage those who work for them to be of service. They can reward it, honor it, and include it in their culture and in their ethos. I think government can talk about it. Leaders can talk about it, model it, and stress it and make it important. So I think that this is a moment. I think we can very nicely ask, but we should also say we expect it of those who live in this country. We have so many God-given rights here and freedoms, and really say that while we hope you'll accept the invitation, we really do expect it of you.
I think that's great. Well, I can speak for everybody here to say we're glad you were told because we've all benefited. I'm going to go back and tell my 7-year-old daughter, Maria Shriver tells me it's okay for me to tell you to serve.
Yeah, tell you to serve.
Let's step back. When you first became First Lady, you took on this cause. You stepped in, you saw what needed to be done, and you did something that no other state had done, which is you said service has to be cabinet rank. Why did you push that? Why was that so important? And what's been the impact of that?
Well, I think I knew that if it really stayed in the First Lady's office, it would never be considered really serious. That's the truth. As much as I hate to admit it, I knew that if it wasn't at the governor's table and it wasn't at cabinet level, and if that person wasn't being in the same conversation as the Homeland Security person in education and agriculture and Veterans Affairs, that we would always have second-class ranking. And I think as soon as Karen Baker became the secretary, and it was obviously Arnold that decided to do that, but as soon as she got to the table, everything changed. She got in the room, she got the same voice at the table, and everybody started thinking differently because they understood it was on Arnold's agenda, they understood that she was at equal playing level, and that she had a crossover with a lot of the work that she was doing. And I think once they realized that it was important to the governor and that it was important to the state, people paid attention in a different way.
That's terrific. Well, thank you for pushing that and recognizing that it needed to go to that level. But in addition to being a leader in the service movement, you've also been a terrific social entrepreneur and social innovator, and we're seeing a lot of linkages now between these two movements. You took the Women's Conference to a whole new level, 20,000 people. It's now the premier gathering for women in this country. People know. You've replicated the We Connect program to more than 20 states. You went to Kiva and said, hey, can you do stuff here in America? And got them to do that. Today you built your 31st playground across the state of California. What have you learned about what it takes to not only do service, but be a social innovator, be a social entrepreneur, that we all can?
Well, I think one of the things I tried to do when I came into this role was approach it as a journalist. Having grown up with two parents who served 24/7, and then I thought, okay, I'm a journalist. There's a lot going on in the Capitol that people don't know about. So if I could approach and take all of these laws that exist to help people that they don't know about, put them all under one roof, use the media to tell that story, partner with the media and all the different forms of media, we can reach a whole new group of people. So I think that one of the things I discovered, certainly in the field of poverty, was that so many of the people in this country who are to benefit, whether it's from a child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, different nonprofits, they don't know that we exist. They don't know that they can apply for automobile insurance, energy saving insurance, the earned income tax credit. They don't know that there are different extraordinary nonprofits that are out there to help them, be it legal services for the poor or any of the organizations that are represented here. And I found that by putting them together, bringing business to the table, government to the table, media to the table, nonprofits to the table, and having them all work together, that the message went out in a different way. And I think in California particularly, and now there are so many different forms of media that are available to everybody in this room. It's no longer do you have to go to the 4 major networks. There are communicators on the ground all around you that the nonprofit world, the service world can use to spread their message, to reach people that want to be involved with us but don't know that we exist. I think very often people are working in this field and you're talking to one another and you think everybody knows you're there, and then you go out into the Hmong community or you go out into the Latino community and they've never heard of what you're talking about, and that there are different languages in many ways spoken in these different communities, and to communicate with them through the communications that they use.
I think that's right on the money, and I appreciate you brought up the issue of poverty and that you've been leading on that as well. What can the service movement do to really take on that issue, and what can we do as in our country? How do we launch a movement to fight poverty as we have this service movement that's growing and growing?
Well, I think we have to somewhat change the face of poverty. I think, I remember I just executive produced a film on my father called The American Idealist, which really went through a lot of,
It's an extraordinary film. It's going to be shown here tonight for those of you, tomorrow night, for those of you who haven't seen it. It's extraordinary.
And it talks about and he talks about how he thought he could alleviate poverty. And how optimistic he was, and people said he was naive. And obviously he gave, along with President Johnson, a huge effort to do that. But I think that the face of poverty has changed so dramatically. In the last year, the last 2 years, the last 5 years. And there are a lot of programs that exist to help poor people that they don't know about. And we have found here that what seems to work extremely well is connecting, as I said, all the services and putting them in community centers that already exist. So we work with legal services for the poor, for example, and we partner with Intuit, who's given us millions of dollars to develop a website that we bring computers into legal services, and then we connect them not only to lawyers, but also to the earned income tax credit, to the child tax credit, to state credits, to all these different services so they can do one-stop shopping, so to speak, or one-stop centers, I know, also existing in many places like that. And then we bring in La Opinion, we partnered with them, and they put out 11 million supplements in their communities that are at these neighborhood centers and in churches in different areas to try to spread the word through different mediums. For people who don't have computers, who might not watch television, and we partner with Univision, and we do it in different languages. So constantly trying to think about what haven't we thought of, what message haven't we connected to, and how can we spread it in mediums that we haven't touched and that people are listening to but are not conventional.
So it's a new sort of 21st century approach.
It's I think, kind of journalism, new media meets government, meets nonprofit, meets entrepreneurs, meets business, meets committed volunteers. And one of the things we've learned through the We Connect program is that when we connect poor people, particularly to services, they come back and want to connect other poor people, and they want to be of service because somebody reached out to them, somebody changed their life, and they, in their excitement, they want to then change somebody else's life.
They want to be involved. You kept talking about partnerships, and in the work that you've done, you have built a number of creative and innovative partnerships, whether it's around the Women's Conference, as you mentioned, reaching out to the business community, bringing everybody to the table. What have you learned about what it takes to form effective partnerships and how to think differently? Because a lot of people think it's impossible to make it happen. What advice would you give?
I think everybody in this room probably knows perseverance is just, I think, the number one.
It just doesn't happen automatically.
It just doesn't happen automatically. People often think, oh, well, you can call and it'll happen automatically. It rarely happens.
Even for Maria Shriver, she has to knock on the door.
I say, people go, look, I have to say no. I said, that's okay, I'll come back around you the back door. I'll come back around you. Yeah, and I often say to people, it's so much easier for you to say yes because I'm going to become your worst nightmare. So it would be much easier on you to just come with the program now and help me now than just have to deal with me harassing you for this long period.
So you've learned, I mean, you're such a great listener and communicator, but the one word you don't hear is no.
Oh, I hear it a lot. I don't pay attention to it, but I hear it.
Take note of that, folks.
I never pay attention to it. And there's so many exciting, you mentioned Kiva, which is the largest online microlending organization, and we just launched with them here domestically. They're here in San Francisco. And I remember going to visit them, it was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and I said, you know, you're doing all this extraordinary work in all of these other countries. Why can't we do this here in America? And, you know, we can match you with our people who want to volunteer. And they said to me, look, we already have about 1,000 cyber volunteers. And I said, what's a cyber volunteer? And they said, we have people who, in the privacy of their own home, volunteer for us at night, translating people's stories, helping people get up online. They do it in the web while you may be sleeping, or do it all over the world, and we connect them to people in need, and they translate their stories and they connect them to people in their villages. And I was fascinated by the cyber volunteer that's out there, that's volunteering and never comes into an office and is just waiting to be asked to, fix some accounting papers, translate some stories, do their work from their home through the computer, and connect people to resources to help change their lives. So I think that's also a fascinating new arena.
Right, there's all different kinds of ways people can serve now.
Exactly.
You talked about technology. You've built a tremendous website here, CaliforniaVolunteers.org. What do you see the role of technology, and how do we really tap into that power for the service movement going forward?
Well, I think Mrs. Obama, and I just want to thank her again for coming here today. Because let's face it, I've built 30 playgrounds, and there was more interest in the playground today when she came than in any of the other playgrounds. Practically nobody showed up at the other playgrounds. I mean, a lot of volunteers did, not a lot of media. But I think, when certainly the President of the United States and the First Lady of the United States say service is important to me, and it's important to my kids, and we're going to do it no matter how busy we are, that sends the most powerful message. And I think when you have, a president that's hip and young and cool and he's serving, you're like, I want some of that. I think that's, or I think you can never underestimate the power of the messenger. Jon Bon Jovi comes out and says, it's important to me to be of service. And when people that people admire say it's important to me, or when Arnold Schwarzenegger comes forward and says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it as a volunteer, or I'm going to make this an important part of my, governorship, and I'm going to make it a cabinet level position, that sends a message.
Yes.
So I think having these websites, making service simple, rewarding, meaningful. Much of the research we've done has said that people want to connect and volunteer, but they don't often feel they're given rewarding experiences, so they don't come back. So how do we make it rewarding for people so that they come back? So many people, baby boomers, have so many talents, and they want to do more than lick an envelope. They want to tutor. They want to build these playgrounds, build houses. They want to be creative. They want to figure out how to use the web. They want to Twitter about it. They want to spread the message. They want to build a community that changes our message and changes our community for the better. And I think we have to be really open-minded about how we use the mediums that are available to us today. California Volunteers has 45,000 opportunities on it, but we could have 100,000. We have millions of people in this state serving, but we need millions more. We're not reaching into a lot of the communities, are not hearing our message. We need to do better. And even though we have an extraordinary cabinet secretary in Karen Baker, who has done an incredible job, we have to find ways to reach our diverse communities that we haven't figured out yet.
I love the approach you've taken where you turn over every rock. You're looking at every possibility. You're bringing people together from every sector to advance this movement and fight poverty and engage people in service. Unfortunately, we have to wrap this up, so I want to give you a chance. Do you have any parting words of wisdom or a challenge for this audience? And also thank you for taking on the leadership of this gathering and inspiring all of us.
Well,
so parting
thank
words.
You.
Parting words for this audience.
And you have been such a leader and an inspiration to me. And I also, as I say, I want to thank Arnold, who also put up with my badgering about it. And I think
thank you for doing that.
He has made a huge contribution in this field. But I think it would be really great if everybody from all 50, I think every governor should have a secretary. I think really, and I really believe, I think it's amazing that it's only California and New York. I don't understand that at all. And I think that we should have a goal of, 10 or 15 this year. I mean, actually, I think the goal should be all 50 by the end of the year, but I recognize it's summer and maybe we don't have that much time, but why not set that as our goal and then ask the president to put it up there at the table. And I think, Because the world does see it differently when the Secretary for Service and Volunteering is at the governor's table, whoever the governor is. And it's different when they're at the president's table. People just treat you differently. And I think that's a goal that we can have. Every state can have that goal. I think it would make a difference in every state. I think every state should have a volunteer website that they can direct people to, whether it be for an emergency or just for everyday living. And I think we can encourage, many people have said to me, I don't have a talent, and I'll say, do you play the piano? And they're like, well, yeah. I say, well, you can go play a piano in an Alzheimer's home. Can you read a book? They're like, well, yeah, you can go read a book. It's not that complicated. It doesn't have to be every single day. Anything you can give can change someone's life. It really can change someone's life. And no matter where I go, there isn't a day, there probably isn't an hour in my life where someone doesn't come up and talk to me about my father, my mother, my uncle, and it's all, or Arnold, and it's about how a program that they started changed somebody's life. I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I'm a graduate of the Job Corps. I was in Head Start. I'm a legal service lawyer. Somebody reached out and touched me. I'm an AmeriCorps volunteer. I'm a Vista volunteer. I was in Special Olympics. I'm a coach. I'm a volunteer. And it changed my life. And so I think that everybody in this room should take a moment, I hope, over the next 2 days to think about the difference that they are making in someone's life. I think everybody in the nonprofit service world is so down on the ground trying to just survive that you probably never take the moment to think about how you yourself are actually really transforming people's lives. Simply by your work, by the fact that you exist, that you're out there every day working, reaching out, listening, caring, and trying. It changes people's lives in the most fundamental and profound way. And at the end of the day, it is really the only thing that matters in life. And it's not, I think, about all of the success that we all focus on. It's about your effect on another human being. And that's the people in this room. And I think we can never underestimate the power of that. And that your children, I hope that they get a taste of what I've gotten as a child of people who've been dedicated to service. They will come up to your children and say, your mom, your dad, or your uncle, your grandma changed my life. And that's time on this earth well spent.
Well, Maria. Well, Maria, it's clear your energy, your idealism. We are so blessed, all of us in the service movement, to have you as such an extraordinary champion and a strategist and an innovator. And thank you for changing my life and the lives of so many people here and across the state of California and across our country. We deeply appreciate it. Let's hear it for Maria Shriver.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Alex. That was so much fun.
That was fun. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Michelle Nunn, alongside Board Chair of the Points of Light Institute, Neil Bush.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For those of you who are brave enough to stay a little longer, we have a very special surprise backstage, another real star that's going to come out and wow us in the service movement. This has been an amazing opening day for the conference. We have an activist presidency. Historic legislation has been passed, and the Points of Light Institute is pleased to be right in the middle of the changes in this new day of volunteerism and service. Our mission is to inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes the world. We've worked alongside of some of our nation's most powerful change agents to help build the movement that led to the bipartisan passage of the Serve America Act. And we were successful in ensuring the inclusion of a volunteer generation fund, which will, for the first time, help volunteer connector organizations and nonprofits manage and equip millions of new volunteers. Over the past year, our 250 hands-on network affiliates and network of 70,000 nonprofits delivered approximately 30 million hours of volunteer service, an investment valued at $615 million in new community resources. Through Mission Fish, we raised $58 million last year, bringing the total to $130 million raised for 19,000 nonprofits since 2003. And through our Civic Incubator, we have made a new and significant investment in youth education and service learning. We have combined forces with New York-based Children for Children and are bringing new resources and expertise to bear in our work to strengthen schools and youth success through service. And all of this has been done through the capable and gracious leadership of our CEO and her staff, Michelle Nunn.
Neil, thanks so much for being such an extraordinary partner, for carrying on the legacy of service of your family and your father in particular. President Bush, 20 years ago, really catalyzed a service movement that I think we are seeing come into full fruition today. We really do stand at a pivotal time at this very moment, and there's never been a more exciting time. It's actually amazing to think about the fact that we have a president who is a community organizer and a first lady who started and ran an AmeriCorps program. How cool is that? So thanks to their extraordinary leadership and idealism, we're seeing a surge of interest and activity that's unprecedented. And we are realizing that we truly can mobilize, as the First Lady said, to make a difference where it's needed most. Our hands-on affiliates and leaders are doing this across the country. We have affiliates in New York who are helping with earned income tax credits, 165 volunteers that included $14 million for low-income New Yorkers. We have volunteers that are starting programs called like Relight, a 13-year-old in New York who started the program Children for Children Volunteer. And through their efforts, they have distributed over 110,000 fluorescent compact bulbs and saved over 21 million pounds of carbon emissions. So we are seeing how people are making extraordinary difference through our hands-on affiliates. And in answer to the President's call, we are going to be following their lead. We are going to be taking these hands-on projects to scale and creating a new level of impact. We'll rededicate ourselves to growing a network where action meets results, and we will create pathways that model the best new generation of approaches to meaningful civic action. This hands-on service will be transformational and high impact, and we will truly grow a legion of change agents that can create and manage meaningful volunteer opportunities that are truly making a difference. We will equip, inspire, mobilize, people to take action around three of our nation's most critical issues: education, the environment, and the economy.
Today, we are launching Get Hands On. We do this because roughly 1/3 of all students in our country drop out before finishing high school. Environmental damage is occurring every day due to carbon emissions. 13 million children live below the poverty line, and 3 million children go to bed every night hungry. We can and we must change these numbers. Through Get Hands On, we will recruit and mobilize a corps of 500,000 volunteer leaders. These service leaders will lead others in meaningful service and create a sustainable future, change force for the future. We will engage people of all ages in 2 million impact-driven projects because we think volunteers and service leaders can reduce the dropout rate by leveraging the power of service in every school, reduce the carbon footprint through neighborhood-based conservation and restoration projects, and support economic security for families by facilitating access to resources and dollars.
What can that look like? Imagine that every public school had a service leader that was coaching children to have service as a part of their lives. Imagine that we activate a corps of thousands of volunteers who are planting, for instance, 25 trees each, and thereby reducing the carbon footprint by 1.5 billion pounds. Imagine that we equip eligible families to receive the Earned Income Tax Credit and enable them to have millions and millions of dollars of resources. So we're launching Get Hands On today as part of the United We Serve, and in response to the First Lady's call, to the President's call. We're starting today, and we're recruiting 5,000 volunteer leaders who will complete 50,000 projects in the next 81 days. We will never be more powerful than we are right now. And it is what we do at this moment in time that will determine our future, that will show the world that we do have the will and the imagination to save our planet, to educate our children, and to lift millions of people out of poverty. So let's serve together and forge a new future. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Nicola Gorin.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be...
But wait, there's more. Hello again. I'd like to thank Michelle Nunn for her lifetime of championing the volunteer sector and for her partnership in this amazing conference. I'd also like to thank the corporation's board of directors for their leadership and support. I have the honor of serving as the acting CEO of the Corporation for National and Community Service during a unique moment in time. As the agency responsible for implementing this administration's vision for service, it is our privilege and our responsibility to innovate and press forward to achieve the full potential for the national service movement. When I think about a model for accomplishing the challenges ahead, I think about the AmeriCorps Vista alum and Purpose Prize winner Gary Maxworthy. After more than 3 decades in the food distribution business and 1 year as a Vista volunteer at the San Francisco Food Bank, Gary was frustrated that food banks have limited fresh produce and that food distributors typically discard millions of pounds of produce a year because it's less than perfect. In 2000, Maxworthy decided to innovate by creating a system to directly connect fruit and vegetable growers to food banks and distribute that fresh produce to the poor. By 2006, Maxworthy's program was able to distribute 22 million pounds of fresh produce to nearly 40 California food banks, improving many thousands of lives. Today, we find ourselves with a national opportunity and challenges akin to the one Maxworthy took on. We have a president and a first lady for whom service and volunteering are fundamental values rooted in personal experience. From MLK Day to the new United We Serve initiative, both have stepped out early and often in support of volunteering and service. We also have bipartisan recognition in Congress that volunteering and service are critical to our nation's civic health, as we saw when AmeriCorps was included in the Recovery Act and with the swift and historic passage of the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act. And while the economic climate has been hard on everyone, particularly on the nonprofit sector, it has also sparked a compassion boom and prompted organizations to think creatively about how to use volunteers to fill the gap between decreasing revenues and increasing demand for services. From President John F. Kennedy's call to how national service has brought so much hope and relief to disaster victims from Katrina to Iowa, your work over the last 40-plus years in the field has demonstrated over and over the value and necessity of volunteering. It has helped instill an ethic of service in our younger generations and has led us to this once-in-a-generation, maybe once-in-a-lifetime moment. So how do we take advantage of this moment? We need to refocus in 3 key areas: investment, innovation, and impact. The Serve America Act expands the corporation's focus from supporting and fostering national service and volunteering to more broadly increasing capacity in the nonprofit sector. The newly authorized Volunteer Generation Fund will help the volunteer sector enhance its infrastructure, allowing for greater impact in communities and enabling more people to serve as well. Our second area of focus is innovation. The corporation has long been recognized for funding some of the most innovative nonprofits and program models. Now we are going to be much more intentional about doing so as a core part of our mission. The Serve America Act's Social Innovation Fund will include opportunities to expand approaches with proven impact and help us research and identify innovative practices that can translate to other organizations and communities. As Max Worthy's experience showed, innovation is about challenging the way things are done. It is often controversial and challenges the status quo, but it's not necessarily about being new. Our focus on innovation will primarily be about investing in proven models that work and that are ready to be scaled up so that their impact can grow or be replicated. Which brings me to our third area of focus, impact. Imagine if we collectively focused our attention and resources on addressing a few key national issues and quantified the impact of this service on America's communities. What a story we would be able to tell. This kind of effort will help keep the current momentum for national service going strong and truly make a difference in solving some of our seemingly intractable problems. This paradigm shift will require that we move away from the traditional model of letting 1,000 flowers bloom to a more focused set of outcomes that align with our national challenges in education, healthy futures, veterans, energy, and opportunity. This is the vision of the Serve America Act. I know it's a big change for all of us, but it's the logical evolution of our movement and the path toward even greater impact and growth. So now I ask you to join us in the next steps in our collective history. As President Obama said when the Senate passed the Serve America Act, our work is not finished when I sign this bill into law. It has just begun. While our government can provide every opportunity imaginable for us to serve our communities, it is up to each of us to seize those opportunities. Thank you so much for all that you do and all that you will do in this new era of national service. And now it is my pleasure to introduce an actor and producer who, in addition to a wide array of credits, recently launched the Just Livin' Foundation. His foundation helps teenagers lead active, healthy lives through exercise, teamwork, and positive life choices. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matthew McConaughey.
There's Mama there. There you are. Thank you. Thank you, Nikki, for that introduction and for everything that you're doing at the White House to promote service. After hearing today from Nikki, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Governor Schwarzenegger, Maria Shriver, Jon Bon Jovi, and from the First Lady Michelle Obama, I'm going to do my best to be of some service up here. But truthfully, I'm very honored to stand up here amongst them and yourselves. All right. I like that. I'm also proud of my friends at the Entertainment Industry Foundation, Hollywood's leading charity, who have asked me to be here today. Yeah. This is a remarkable organization, whether they're standing up to cancer, raising awareness for domestic issues, or like today, standing up for service. And in the light of the reason that we're here today, I don't know if any of you noticed it, but the national anthem that opened the ceremonies gave me a new set of chills. It sounded like it was written for the event, didn't it? Yeah. We've heard a few things today that I know stuck to my mind I'd like to bring up again. We heard Governor Schwarzenegger reminding us that the very simple thing is to ask. People want to serve. Sometimes we forget to ask. That's a simple one, but a very true one. We also heard the First Lady talking about making service cool. I like that one. I've always said in my office and to the people of my foundation, it's like service is like if broccoli really tasted good. Because you know it's good for you, but it doesn't really taste good. But service is like that, if broccoli really did taste good. And we also heard about getting the word service into the common conversational vernacular. And what that reminded me of is what if tomorrow or sometime here in the near future, one of the top 5 things that you say to somebody when you're introduced to them is like, hey, what are you serving? You know, what have you been serving? That word, just to be in our vernacular, is one of the top 5 things that we talk about when we want to meet someone or share something in our own lives. That would be really cool if that made it up to Webster's Dictionary. As Mrs. Obama also reminded us, service is something for everybody to get involved in. Now, in my case, I was inspired to get involved with my first volunteering around the time that I suddenly lost my father, Jim McConaughey. I actually lost him 4 days into working on my first job, acting. And as anyone who's lost a parent can tell you, when a loved one like that moves on, you grieve, obviously. But one of the things you also do is you start to look for some inspiration from that loss, some lesson there is to learn. What is that lesson? Something constructive that you can take through your life in their absence. For me, it was a few words. The words became a compass, sort of a mantra, sort of a personal mission statement. And the words were J.K. Living. Now, the J is for just, the K is for keep, and there ain't no G on living because life is a verb. Now, eventually, J.K. Living became the name of my production company, my record label, and finally, my foundation. At the J.K. Living Foundation, we are putting after-school fitness and wellness programs into underserved communities nationwide. We're teaching physical fitness, nutrition education, and we have a heavy emphasis on daily gratitude, no matter how much or how little each kid has. Isn't that true? Thank you. It just keeps giving back, doesn't it? And now that I'm blessed to be a father myself, where's my lady? We got one at home. Levi's 11 months, the 7th, and we just let some people know today that we got another one in the oven, 3 months right now. Come on. I'd like to say thank you on that one, Camilla. Because I've now started a family and I've got my tribe and I've got my kids, the foundation and serving and caring means a lot more to me. Now, I don't need to tell anybody in this room how meaningful and powerful that volunteering and service can be, but we do need to tell the rest of the world. And that's why our friends at EIF have called upon the entire entertainment industry to be part of a bold new initiative that will help usher in a whole new age of service in this country, the United States of America. EIF is joining forces with AARP and service organizations like Points of Light Institute, Service Nation, and others like the Corporation for National Community Service to build a grassroots movement. And in the months ahead, we're all going to be hearing a lot more about this new effort. But today, we want all of you to get a sneak peek at what's going to be coming your way. So before you take a look, come again? Austin? The Horns are up 6-4 in the 8th inning on LSU right now. Back to this. Before we take a look, I want to thank you all for your attention, for what you're all doing here today. I've gotten inspired quite a bit myself. I've learned quite a few things, and I've got a little extra kick in my step heading back home. So I want to thank you all for your dedication to service. Yes, like gratitude, it is a gift that keeps giving back, and let's make it a habit. Also, remember, in the good times and the bad times, now times and all times, just keep living. All right.
It is a powerful force, gathering strength, coming to change the world as we know it.
I'll take it from here.
Together, the organizations you represent have changed millions of lives and inspired Americans to answer the call of service. You have shown that the best of ourselves lies in the good we do for others.
I believe that each of us has something to contribute to the life of this nation.
As Americans face great challenges, they may have less money to give, but they have time to offer, making this the perfect moment to make service a national priority.
What is required of us now is a new era of responsibility, a recognition on the part of every American that we have duties to ourselves, our nation, and the world.
This has been your vision. And now, thanks to the Entertainment Industry Foundation, the entire entertainment community stands united to lend you our voice.
They have joined forces with the EIF.
Hollywood does have a heart, as demonstrated by the Entertainment Industry Foundation.
As Hollywood's leading charitable organization, EIF has spent 67 years raising funds and awareness for the most pressing causes of the day.
The Entertainment Industry Foundation has been funding great cancer research for over 20 years now.
And has distributed hundreds of millions of dollars to worthy charities nationwide. Your work has inspired EIF to mobilize talent from film, television, and music.
Jennifer Aniston, Ellen DeGeneres, and Halle Berry are participating.
To take your message and turn up the volume.
I'm Scarlett Johansson. I'm Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
I'm Billy Crystal.
My name is Jennifer Garner.
Together, we can do anything, but divided, we fail.
This is my dream.
EIF has rallied the entertainment community to launch a groundbreaking and ongoing service initiative that will begin this fall. We are proud to be joining forces with AARP's Create the Good to build a grassroots campaign over the coming years. With the help of the Service Nation Coalition and others, our mission is to create a blockbuster movement. The first phase will be a television event unlike any other for the entire week of October 19th, 2009, when all the major broadcast networks and cable outlets utilize their programming to champion the benefits of service.
Amazing, isn't it?
Service will be featured by morning, daytime, and late-night hosts, showcased by America's favorite TV and movie stars.
However you can incorporate some service into your day, it's a great habit that keeps giving back to the rest of your life.
And even woven into the storylines of primetime programs.
This is really about the American public. We can all form a movement, and we can all unite and have an impact.
As we begin a new era of making service a national priority, let EIF give the hand you're lending the reach you need. Because if there's one thing our industry understands, it's the value of being connected. And the best way we can all share a connection is in the celebration of service. And this is just the beginning. What will the next chapters look like? Stay tuned.